Okay, this is part 2 of the accessorizing units tutorial. Now for this part we're going to do a bit of coding. So it's not as hard as it seems. It just takes a bit of practice. Alright. So first what we need to do is, well, basically what we're doing is we're going to remove the animations from this pickaxe that we ripped in the last tutorial. Now, why are we doing this? Well, if we just imported this into Warcraft 3 right now and put it on one of our units, then it'd just be moving around in his hand, and we don't want that. So we want it to be stationary. So what we're gonna do is open this pickaxe up in NotePad. Yes, make sure it's the .mdl file. Okay, so look at all this code. What does it mean? Well, it's actually not that hard to figure out. What we're first going to do is, see these little categories here, like model, sequence, and we scroll down here. These are all these little animations. Now each of these little categories is separated with these brackets, these little braces here. So this is where, let's see what, this is where sequences ends. So sequences starts here at this brace, and all these little things that says anims, short for animation, are little things in the group, and it ends there. So what we're going to do is we are going to delete everything, all these categories, except for model, sequences, and we scroll down here, textures, materials, and every geoset category. In this case we only have one, I believe. So we go to the end of geosets here and basically delete everything after geoset. So starting with geoset, anim, and everything under it. So I just like to click there because it's a lot of code. Scroll to the bottom and hold shift and click, and it selects everything, and delete. So now we don't have so much code, and it's a little less confusing. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is find the geoset category, which should be one of your last little categories there. See geoset, and we scroll down, and you see this, it says groups, and it has two numbers, and then matrices a bunch of times. Now, I'm not entirely sure what this is, but it just gives you problems. So select everything except for the very first matrix. Select everything and then delete it. So now we only have one little matrix thing. And change where it says groups 23, 36, or whatever the number is on the model you're using. Change that to 1. Change it to 1, 1. Okay, now what we do is scroll down a little further past the matrix, and we see a bunch of things that says anim. We don't want any of these. These are the animations. They're really bad. So we select all of these, and remember, each starts with a brace and ends with a brace, and delete those. Okay, so now we have even less code. Now what we want to do is, near the bottom, like it should be the second to last line in the matrix category, in the geoset category, excuse me. You see a little line here that says material ID, and it'll give you a number. In this case it's 0. Pay attention to that number. So in the 0, so we move up to the materials category, which should be about, there we go, materials. Now everything in here is numbered from 0 and then up instead of 1. So the first material would be material 0, then material 1, then material 2. So that geoset only uses material 1, and this step is really not required, but it saves space. It lowers the file size, which is always a good thing if you're importing many models. So we take everything except for material 1, or material 0, excuse me, and delete it. So now there's one material, and we change materials. There used to be 3, so now there's 1, and so we change that 3 to a 1. Okay, so now we do the same basic thing, except with the materials field. So we look at material 0, and we go over, and it says static texture ID 0. So that means that this material uses texture 0. You don't really need to understand that, but so 0, we know that means the first texture, so we go up to the textures thing and we delete everything except for the first texture. And then we change textures 3 to textures 1. So that's pretty much it. And we hit File, Save, and you'll notice if you move your mouse over it that the file size is much smaller, and that's a very good thing. There's one last step that we need to do, and that is to position our pickaxe for our model. So we open up Vertex Modify one more time, and we hit Open, and we open our pickaxe. And what you want to do is you want to go to View, Add Marker, and it'll say Z, 0, 0, and 0. So now you'll see there's a little blue dot there. Now, we can see that our pickaxe is kind of floating in space away from this dot. We don't want that. This dot is where our unit will be holding the model, and it'll just look weird if the axe is floating in mid-space. So what we want to do is you want to click on Move, and then using the right button on the mouse, position the pickaxe in all 3 frames here, so that position it where you think the model should be held. So about right at the end is where I put it, and you hit File, Save. Okay, so that's the end of this part. Check out part 3 for importing and accessorizing your units.